The year 2020 has been a very unusual year in a variety of ways. I've done some videos this year of what I see, or should I say what I don't see, on the shelves and how toilet paper was very scarce for a period of time. Now we're halfway through the year, I can see there's lots of toilet paper on offer, but I'm starting to see something a little bit more sinister going on. Anyway, to kick off in a cheery way, let's do some Thomas Impossible toy hunting first. I've come to another, I'll just call it favourite retailer, and well, this is the Thomas area here. It's got a lot of other things apart from Thomas, and I'm just going up to the top where the pegged items would normally be, and it's looking like it normally looks. Trackmaster Power, there's a Gordon and there's a Nia, and you can see the other ones that are there. Okay, I've actually come in here looking for a Diamond Thomas. There's that there. I don't really want to know about that. There's a Paint Splatter Thomas. Oh, okay, cool, bananas. There's another one that I've got. A normal Thomas, another Paint Splatter Thomas, and one I don't really want at all. There's a box of the Thomas Minis here. I don't know, I think I don't know. I don't get excited about those these days. Sometimes you move stuff around, you'll find other things that have fallen down. Okay, we've got a Rebecca here, and it looks like we've got an Emily as well. And I'll do the right thing while I'm here, and I will restore the store to the way that it should be, because that's what we should do in the Thomas area. But best of all, and noticing that Thomas is next to Bluey in this store, I've got another quite hard to find Diamond Thomas. Yay! This is the Hot Wheels area of the same store where I found the one Diamond Thomas, and it looks impressive if I'm up close like this, but if I go up a little bit, it starts to reveal a fair bit of empty peggerage, and if I go like this, well, the full story gets told. And as for finding that elusive Thomas the Tank Hot Wheels variation, it looks like nil luck here. And maybe that's a nice little segue into what I'm seeing in retail space in the shops that I like to go and shop in. That's quite curious what's happening. I think I might start off by saying this, that when China sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Now, I started seeing a decay in some retailers of stock levels, and I started to see it get worse and worse and worse. To pinpoint a date where we started seeing trouble in Australia, that's very easy to remember because 2020 is a leap year. It was February 29, and that was the beginning of the empty shelves of the toilet paper area, and then that cascaded within supermarkets to all sorts of other groceries. And to repair the undersupply within supermarkets, it took many weeks and restrictions on purchasing before the supplies in the supermarkets started to look normal again. And a lot of the trouble here was caused by the fact that people were panic buying and they were also hoarding, and the smart supermarkets made sure they made maximum profits during this very peculiar activity. By the time March, April and May happened, we were being told to try and stay at home, to try to work at home, school children were being homeschooled, and the big shopping centres went into this very strange and eerie comatose state where only a couple of shops were open and still people were going to these stores and picking off bits and pieces but not doing hardcore shopping like you would in normal times. It was a very popular time to be tidying up your home and possibly getting some nice cheap furniture from whoever was open at the time. These shops were open because it was deemed they were essential services. And when restrictions started to be eased, people started coming out of their home caves and they hit the shopping malls, and when they went to some of these stores, they ate away at the stock that couldn't be replenished because the slow boat from China stopped coming to Australia. Initially I thought, oh, this is a small blip on the radar, it's going to go away within a week or so, but no, the lack of stock continued on for a good 6 weeks. And in fact, as I'm making this video, there are some retailers who are still struggling to fill up empty shelves and empty pegs within their stores. One of the stores that were having all sorts of supply chain problems is one I know really well. It's been an anchor store in the shopping mall for some 40 years, and in that 40 years, I've never seen it in this condition. And there's something quite spooky about seeing whole areas within stores stripped out of stock, and you ask yourself, why is this happening? How can this happen? And is the supply chain really that fragile that it can fall apart in such a spectacular way? And in all the times that I've looked in the toy area and I've seen empty pegs and empty shelves, and I so often say, how can you make money when you're presenting to the customer whole areas that are totally empty of stock. You can't make a cent from an empty shelf or empty pegs within store, and it's one of the cardinal sins of retailing to have totally empty spaces within a shop. One thing I like to do to give the best visual impact of what's going on is steal my own Google review photographs of one of these stores, and I can go flip-flop between the store when it was normal versus the store which has been eroded by, let's just call it virus times, when the supply chain is busted and the store has got no way of replenishing the stock that's been eroded away by those hungry shoppers. There's actually a very positive message in seeing this empty shelves, in particular in one of these retailers. And what it's saying to me is, here's a retailer who can stock their shop with stuff that will sell out till it's empty shelves, empty pegs. And really, that's part of the secret to retailing. There's no use filling your store with stuff that is just never going to sell. And as I've said, when I've seen empty pegs and empty shelves in the Thomas & Friends area, it says to you, it must be popular. People are buying this stuff. So there is a positive message in seeing all this nothingness. Apart from seeing all the retail fail happening in June 2020, it's also the time in the part of town where I live where we have a curbside cleanup, and so often I've come in and made videos of the amazing things that people throw out, and we learn about things that are, I'll call it, made in China and how long they really last for. Often I'm pondering why people are throwing something out when it's only 1 or 2 years old, and hopefully we learn something from seeing that cycle of activity going on over and over and over. But the curbside cleanup for 2020 was different because I started to see that people were throwing out a lot of trash. There wasn't very much to look at that was interesting or that could be reused. I've always said the rubbish piles and what people throw out speak to me. It's a little bit like a temperature gauge of society. And if I'm seeing people throwing out what is classified as real rubbish and I'm seeing nothing of value being thrown out, it's speaking volumes about what's going on in the middle of 2020. The rubbish piles are saying to me that people are being extremely cautious at the moment and being very careful in what they throw out. And sure, I suppose you're wondering, but Leo, did you find a Dyson on the rubbish piles? Well, yes, I did find one, and it's a model that I don't have at the moment in my Dyson collection. But as I say over and over, for every one Dyson that I find, I could probably find 50 rubbish generic vacuum cleaners out on the rubbish piles. And if we can't learn anything from a simple fact like that, well then yes, we are in a stack of trouble. So I'm very curious to understand whether you saw this same cycle of activity going on in retailers and shopping malls where you live. I would love to know, maybe just say roughly where you are in the world and the sort of things that you saw missing in store. And I bet you 9 times out of 10, it'll be something that was made in China. Maybe in all this mess, we've learnt a very valuable lesson. Having a high dependency on Chinese-made items is very dangerous business. I've got some bizarre breaking news, and we're almost into July 2020. Remember at the start of the video I explained February 29 was when we started to have a toilet paper crisis in Australia, and then months later we had this glut of toilet paper. It was everywhere. There was so much of it that the end of aisles in supermarkets was stacked up with toilet paper. But guess what? We're into headless chicken mode again. We've just lapsed back into another crisis. You go down to the stores again, and there is no toilet paper to be found. It's embarrassing being Australian. We seem to be the kings of toilet paper panic buying and hoarding, and we've all forgotten what the Prime Minister had said earlier in the year, and I think it's time to replay that piece of video. Mind you, no one here is going to listen. It seems like nobody listens to what the Prime Minister has to say.
Stop hoarding. I can't be more blunt about it. Stop it. It's not sensible. It's not helpful. Stop doing it. It's ridiculous. It's un-Australian, and it must stop.
Let me just say something up the end here, and I know this style of video becomes very popular with other producers. They think they can come along and pick bits and pieces out of this. They come in and get rid of my watermark, and then they make up their own videos basically by assembling a whole bunch of stolen imagery from other people's works. Luckily for me, I've got some very astute people that watch my videos, and they can find other videos where people have come along and decided to rip off my works to make something of their own. A little video like this has taken me many months to grab all the pictures to make into what you've just seen, and then there's the gamble of, can I make a story about what I'm noticing going on in very strange times? And let me explain something, that the people who rip off my imagery have taken no risk, they've taken no time in gathering the pictures, and they just piggyback onto something that I've had to discover for myself. It's just sad to see so many YouTube producers these days just relying on regurgitating rubbish that they've picked off from other producers on the site. And just about every time when someone comes along and picks off your content, they get rid of your watermark and they never give you credit for what they have taken. So for the producers who think they can come along and negotiate with me once they've been busted and found out that they've stolen my content, removed my watermark and altered the imagery to try and hide it, well, I'll let you know one thing. I never negotiate with thieves. And once you've been caught out doing this style of video or audio theft, there is absolutely no argument that what you've been up to is fair use, because there has been nothing fair in stealing content in this way.